Stephanie Seymour, the most famous supermodel of the 90s. At the height of her fame, she was suddenly dragged into a dark world. Violence, scandals, and unknown secrets. So, what was behind this fall? Her violent relationship with her boyfriend? Years spent in drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers? Why did the once most sought-after model suddenly fade into silence? Why has the story of this woman who fell from the glittering runways to courtrooms never been fully told? And most importantly, was Stephanie Seymour the sole reason for this downfall? Or was the fashion industry a system that first glorified and then consumed women like her? She fell silent, but we will tell her story. If you're ready, a journey begins behind the lights, on the other side of the lens, into the shadow of beauty. Stephanie Michelle Seymour was born on July 23, 1968, in San Diego, California, to a middle-class family. Her life began in a quiet, peaceful coastal town, but soon she would move to some of the most glamorous cities in the world. Even as a child, her striking beauty began to attract attention from those around her. But her dreams were not limited to simply being beautiful. Her dream was to be part of the world of beauty and fashion. Stephanie was discovered through her own efforts. At the age of 15, Stephanie caught the attention of the prestigious Elite Model Look competition. At 15, Stephanie was with John Casablancas, the founder of Elite Model Management. John was a 42-year-old married man. In the mid-'80s, the couple lived together for a while. This relationship launched Stephanie's career. She didn't win the competition, but her professional modeling career, which began in 1983, quickly took off. Within just a few years, she began appearing on magazine covers, in catalogs, and on runways. This competition was considered an important stepping stone at the time and served as a major turning point in young Stephanie's career. In the early 1990s, the supermodel era had begun in the fashion industry. Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Kate Moss, Claudia Schiffer, and of course Stephanie Seymour were among these models. These women were not just models, but also global icons. With advertising deals, music videos, TV shows, and red carpet appearances, they too had become stars. When Stephanie began walking the Victoria's Secret runway in 1991, she became one of the company's first recognizable angels. With her long hair, striking facial features, and confident stride, she became the face of the brand. Watching her walk the runway was more than just a fashion show. It was a cultural event. Stephanie had a curvy, hourglass figure. What set her apart was not just her beautiful face, but her perfect body. While Stephanie was storming the runways, her personal life was also undergoing significant changes. At just 20 years old, she married Tommy Andrews, a young guitarist, on a whim. This relationship was like stardust. It shone brightly and then faded quickly. Their son Dylan was born in 1990, but their marriage didn't last long. Yes, it ended in just 1 year. Stephanie, who became a mother at a young age, was walking under the spotlight on one hand while struggling with personal issues on the other. In 1991 and 1993, she posed for Playboy magazine, which was a significant and sensational step in her career. One of the relationships that made Stephanie's star shine the brightest was her stormy romance with Axl Rose, lead singer of the famous rock band Guns N' Roses. They met in 1991. This relationship, which brought together the worlds of music and fashion, was constantly in the headlines. But the backstage of this stormy love was much darker. In 1991, Guns N' Roses achieved worldwide success with their album Use Your Illusion, and the band had become a phenomenon. Stephanie, on the other hand, was at the top of her field with her Victoria's Secret angel status and her power in the fashion industry. At first, this relationship seemed to embody the 90s definition of a power couple. The most sought-after names in rock and fashion were hand in hand. But what was happening behind the scenes was nothing short of a nightmare. Stefani appeared as Axl Rose's partner in Guns N' Roses' most famous music videos, Don't Cry, 1991, and November Rain, 1992. Especially the wedding scene in November Rain became iconic in both music and pop culture history. People believed this couple was living a real-life fairy tale. However, the reality was very different. Their relationship was as passionate as it was destructive. Throughout their relationship, there were frequent breakups, reconciliations, jealousy crises, and allegations of physical violence. In 1993, Stephanie Seymour filed a lawsuit against Axl Rose, accusing him of assault and battery. In the documents she submitted to the court, she stated that she had been subjected to physical violence, threats, and psychological abuse. The case caused a stir. At a time when issues of domestic violence were not discussed as openly as they are today, Stephanie's decision was seen as a brave move. However, the media was divided. Some outlets supported Stephanie, while others portrayed her as someone who was using Axl to gain fame. This period marked the beginning of both a physical and mental breakdown for Stephanie. Axl Rose also filed a countersuit, claiming that Seymour had damaged his personal belongings during the final stages of their relationship. Both sides made shocking allegations in court, and the case eventually ended in a settlement. However, the lawsuit left a significant mark on Stephanie's image. Following the lawsuit, Stephanie Seymour remained in the public eye for a long time. The intense media attention had negative effects on her professional life. During this period, some brands canceled their advertising and business partnerships. However, Stephanie did not give up. By the late 1990s, she would make a comeback and leave this dark period behind her. After her stormy relationship with Axl Rose, Stephanie Seymour virtually disappeared from view. By the mid-90s, she was no longer in the headlines. The most dazzling model on the catwalk seemed to have quietly withdrawn from the scene. But this was no coincidence. The relentless media attention had dealt a serious blow not only to her career, but also to her personal life. In 1995, she briefly reappeared in front of the cameras, but she no longer had her old cheerfulness. She was more introverted, more cautious, and more controlled. People said she had changed, but this was not a change. It was a survival strategy. By the late 1990s, Stephanie had begun a serious relationship with art collector and billionaire publisher Peter Brant. When they met, Peter was married and had left his wife for Stephanie. The couple welcomed their first child in 1995 and married in 1997. This marriage marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. The media began to describe her not as a supermodel, but as a mother and a figure close to the art world. However, this marriage was not without its issues. When divorce rumors surfaced in 2009, the lawsuits filed by the couple included allegations of alcohol problems, infidelity, and psychological issues. What was striking, however, was that Stephanie and Peter soon withdrew their divorce decisions. They decided to reunite for the sake of their children and their shared history. In the 2010s, as 90s nostalgia began to resurface in the fashion world, Stephanie Seymour slowly made her comeback. In 2017, Stephanie Seymour launched her own lingerie brand, Raven and Sparrow. The brand was established in New York and targeted the luxury lingerie segment. Her designs featured materials such as satin, tulle, and lace. Bella Hadid, one of the brightest names of recent times, appeared in the brand's promotional campaigns. This collaboration contributed to highlighting both the brand's nostalgic aesthetic and modern image. He appeared in front of the camera alongside his son Harry in a Calvin Klein campaign. He participated in nostalgia-themed photo shoots for magazines like Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. In the fashion world, some saw his return as a tribute. He was no longer just a model, but an unforgettable symbol of an era. However, this comeback was never the same as before. The most devastating event in Stephanie Seymour's life came in 2021. Her 24-year-old son, Harry Brant, died from an overdose of prescription drugs. This was not just a mother losing her child. It was also the sudden disappearance of a young figure who was known around the world and talked about as the next icon in fashion circles. Harry was not only Stephanie's son, but also a figure closely watched by the fashion industry, challenging gender norms and standing out with his own unique sense of style. Despite his young age, Harry had appeared in campaigns for major brands. He launched his own makeup collection with MAC Cosmetics and featured in publications like Vogue and Interview. He was on his way to becoming a style icon. Fashion critics referred to him as the pioneer of the next generation. However, there was another story behind the scenes. Harry had been struggling with addiction since a young age. His family made numerous attempts to get him into treatment, but in 2021, just days before he was set to enter a rehabilitation center, he died from an overdose. Stephanie Seymour remained silent for a long time after her son's death. She made no statements to the media. She gave no interviews. This was perhaps the quietest but deepest period of her life. The fashion world was shaken by this loss. Countless designers, models, and magazines shared tributes to Harry. But the most touching moment was when Stephanie Seymour quietly shared a childhood photo of her son. This loss was a turning point in Stephanie Seymour's life. The media pressure, relationships, and scandals she endured during her years as a supermodel, none of these compared to the deep, irreversible pain of losing a child. Today, many young models watch Seymour's walking videos as they walk the runway. Her aesthetic sense, style, and elegance are still a source of inspiration. She is not just a star of the past, she is also part of the evolution of fashion. To some, she represents the destructive aspects of fame. To others, she is a woman who has survived and reinvented herself. Stephanie Seymour's story is a dark and real portrait behind the glittering curtain of the supermodel era. She is a woman who has walked not only on the runways of Victoria's Secret, but also on life's harshest stages. This video was created to tell her story without judgment, without glorification, but with respect. If you enjoy watching documentaries like this, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. This is not just the story of a supermodel. It is a story that could be the voice of many women. Thanks for watching, Fashion Fam. Stay bold, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Love ya!